So today we'll talk about Automation Hero. It's an intelligent automation platform. What I like about Automation Hero is that it's built with AI at the core. It was not an afterthought. AI was one of the key drivers for the Automation Hero platform. And they have various offerings, and we'll talk about that today. We've got two gentlemen with us who will be talking about it. Stefan is the CEO and founder at Automation Hero, and he is with us from San Francisco. And we have also got Nico Martinez. He is a solution engineer at Automation Hero. He's from New York. So we'll have Stefan give us a quick intro to Automation Hero, and then we'll have Nico doing the demo. And then we'll have a Q&A. We have questions from you. So we'll take that questions. And then also, if you have any questions during the session, please put it in the chat. And then we'll go over it as time permits. And if time permits more, we'll take up some live questions as well. So without further ado, over to Stefan for the intro.
Thank you so much. If you can please
let me make you the co-host.
Would love to show just a couple slides. Hello, everybody. Nandan, thank you so much for having us. We're very excited to talk to you and tell you more about our solution. And I hope at this point you should see the slides. I just have a couple three that I would like to share with you before we going into the fun part, which is always the demo of the product. So maybe just a quick background to the company. We are shy of 3 years old, so pretty young as a company, but this isn't our first rodeo. The founding team of Automation Hero started a company called Datamere before. 80% of all financial transactions in the United States are actually running over my last product. Yeah, so all the big credit card companies have literally thousands of servers of my last product. All the big banks, as you can imagine, all the big telcos. So very, very successful company there. Before that, I co-started the technology called Hadoop. That's kind of my open source street credit. But as you see, we have a very data heavy, machine learning background here as a team, and that very, very much informed the product. So you will see the heritage in the product as we show that to you. So we're growing very quickly, over 100% quarter over quarter. And the reason for that is really that our customers, of which 80% maybe use traditional RPA tools, hit a wall. Yeah, they really got promised unstructured data, artificial intelligence, working with emails, documents, and such. But the reality of traditional RPA is it mostly works with legacy systems, screen automation, and it works mostly with structured data. And then it's very fragile, as we all know. So instead of kind of that top-down automation approach, where you use screen automation to pump data into legacy systems, the reality 80+% of IT systems are more modern. Is the SAP, the Salesforce, the ServiceNow, the databases, the REST APIs that you have. So we more automating bottom up, highly distributed, highly reliable. Yeah. And we're really seeing us as a hyper automation platform. When we first time showed our product to Gartner, the gentleman says, wow, this is the first hyper automation platform we ever saw. So also got some very nice mentionings there. In fact, we already won Gartner award as a young company, as an emerging tech company. And if you really think about the journey of automation, you need task automation, so the classical RPA folks, you need workflow, you need event processing, user experience, like the human in the loop, you need the intelligence, the AI piece, you need the process mining piece. And another Gartner point here, every dollar spent on RPA licenses, $5 to $8 are spent on integrating these tools together and make them work. And we see this really as a business opportunity. So we an end-to-end platform that helps you to discover automation opportunities. So we have the classical process mining capability at massive scale. We scale up to 1,000 servers. Not that anybody ever will need that, but we do. And we are mostly used in very big organizations. Think of the biggest insurance brands of the world you can think of. Very likely they're using us already. Or actually, very interesting, the smaller startups, the smaller companies, SMBs, where we have a very, attractive pricing model as well. It's a pay-as-you-go pricing model at $6 an hour per server, fully managed in the cloud, just like your credit card. But if you want, you can scale all the way up, and we'll help you to massively process your data and help you to identify your historical processes, create a digital clone. Then we actually can create an AI model already out of your historical knowledge of your historical business process, turn that AI model then, of course, into an automation process, so intelligently automate that. We don't stop there. We can do deep learning for natural language understanding to, for example, understand an email and route it, for example, to extract information from an email, like, from, to, or an address and what have you. And then we really nicely bring this back, of course, and have the visualization capabilities to give you real-time KPIs of your automation business process in a qualitative way. Yeah, it's like how much revenue in the last 30 minutes, or in a quantitative way, how many codes did we send out in the last minute. So that's really kind of the platform. So here, just a quick technology overview. Again, massive parallelized platform that can run on-prem or in a fully managed cloud, where we offer pay-as-you-go, as I mentioned. We have a connector framework with over 50 connectors, a highly parallelized execution framework. That's really interesting for mission-critical deployment. So if maybe you have 10 machines, 5 can fail, and the whole thing is still running. So that's why we use for mission-critical automations. We have the deep learning capabilities. We'll have a whole bunch of really cool kind of things built in, and we show everything is, of course, secured with a security and governance layer, configurable encryption, and so on. As you see, very, very enterprisey backend. But then really the 5 things on top of that our customers daily use is Flow Studio, that Nico will show you, where you can point and click as a citizen developer in a no-code environment, really together your end-to-end automation. You can, of course, do role-based decision or AI-based decision. That brings us to AI Studio, where you can, within 2 minutes, point and click together deep learning models that you would have to hire extremely expensive data scientists for, and it needs most likely weeks of doing that. We will show you, you can do this in 2 minutes. You have your X Studio, so really bringing the humans into the loop, having them maybe validate what came from the AI or the OCR of Sonar. This is the process mining capability we'll see in a second. And then we'll have intelligent OCR, where we really above industry standard for forms, handwriting, and invoice processing. We're using contextual knowledge that is brought into the platform. And you can go as deep as you want on validation rules. Therefore, we very frequently blow all the competition out of the water on that piece as well. And we will show you that. And that's my very last slide. So let's get into that really interesting stuff that Nico can show us now and really make things real. We're looking forward to your questions in 20 minutes or so.
Great. Thank you, Stefan.
All right, now I have to be interesting. Thank you for that, Stefan. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Nico.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you. All right, so sharing on my screen now. So what we're looking at here is the starting screen for Hero Flow. This is the primary interface where people who build, maintain, manage the automations will interact with the system. And because there's so many things that we can do in the world of automation, it becomes a conversation of, can you do this? The answer is almost always yes. I like to talk about our capabilities in a particular context. In this case, I'm going to focus on a healthcare-centric story. Healthcare is obviously a big concern going on in the world right now. And so the story we want to tell is, if I were, say, a hospital administrator, I want to understand my processes, understand what's going on, and then I want to make my future decisions more intelligent. Now, how can I do that with this platform through automation? So starting at the very beginning, just to try to give you a big breadth of the platform, and I'm going to jump out to different environments just to show you different variations of what we can do as we go. But I like to start at the very beginning, which is data. Data drives everything. We pride ourselves on being a very good integrator. As opposed to some other players in the space that live on end user workstations, we primarily like to interact with systems in the background via API connections. And looking in this particular demo environment, I have a whole slew of them set up here: email servers and file systems and databases and what have you. The entire interface is point and click. It's low code, no code. We again pride ourselves on that. We want to make it as accessible to as broad of an audience as possible, so you can start leveraging benefit. If I wanted to say create a new connection, as I mentioned, point and click, give it a name, call it anything, and I choose from a drop down of what I can connect to. We have this is a list that's growing all the time. We have a number of named systems, things like Salesforce and ServiceNow. We also have more generic ones for people who are more technically minded, if you for Swagger or for a published REST API or what have you. If I wanted to connect to, say, a database, it just very, very easily prompts you for what you need. We have half a dozen here, and as I mentioned, this is growing all the time. But the nice thing is, once the connection is established, it becomes immediately available for use in the automation. So if you were deploying this in an enterprise structure, the business user may not know what port is open on a firewall or on a database server. But with a little bit of engagement, this step is completed, and then the automation, the actual guts of it, are put into the hands of the business user. So looking at a flow, looking at an automation, I mentioned we were talking about a medical story. This is an example of an end-to-end flow. Data comes in, it goes through some sort of ETL or analytical process, and it gets sent out to one or more locations. And you're going to hear me use the word flow a lot, and I use that term generically intentionally, because it isn't strictly an ETL flow, a data flow, a workflow, an error handling flow. It does a little bit of everything. It really gives you the capacity to manipulate, massage, and analyze your data in one contiguous structure. So we see, look in here, this is actually a very linear flow. Data is going to come in, it's going to go through a little bit of cleanup and be sent out for process mining. Just to show the juxtaposition, here is an example of one that I've been working on for a prospect, where it gets much more complex. We have call outs to external systems like Salesforce. We have multiple branching logic where in effect we can incorporate business and workflow logic as well as error handling, and make this a very, very dynamic type of flow. Looking at our medical data, just so we know what we're going to be visualizing. If I click on a particular node, it'll give me a preview, and hopefully it won't argue with me right now, because it always waits for the first time. There we go. So what I can do, and actually this is a really nice feature for those building an automation, as I'm adding incremental steps, I can click on a node and it will effectively simulate the run to that point. So I don't have to affect core data, but I can see and make sure in this preview view that the steps I'm taking are what I expect. Looking at the data we're looking at, as I mentioned, it's medical data. So we've got people going through a medical process. They submit a form, they schedule a test, they go to the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. We have some of their vital statistics, we have some of their underlying chronic conditions as additional metadata. Now, building this flow, as I mentioned, once again, very easy, as easy as point and click. If I want to add a new step, I'd click on this plus sign, and I get a list of over 200 operators. Now, this encompasses AI models that have been built or uploaded into the system, containerized functions. So if you have code that's built in Ruby or Python or C++ or what have you, you can put it into a sort of a Docker template and upload it into the system, use it as just another operator in the flow. I can add new data into the context, filter it out, all these sort of arithmetic and analytical operators. I can even call out to I can call out to additional systems for inline enrichment. And if I were a little more technically minded, it's by no means mandatory, but I can actually build my own JavaScript functions within the solution itself and have them available as functions in here. So just a very quick view. This is the end-to-end flow. For this particular case, we take our raw data, we do a little bit of cleanup, and we send it into the process mining. Jumping into that side, now we get into a little more interesting. This is just sort of how we set up the data for this automation. Now we actually want to see what it's going to look like. Sonar is our process mining and data visualization tool, and I've got a prepared dashboard. So what I'm looking at here is a process map, is sort of a visualized process map of that historical data, that sort of glut of log data, or in this case, medical process data. As I zoom in, I can see, most people follow a pretty straightforward linear process. They submit a form, they schedule a test, it's performed, and then it branches out. Maybe it's positive, maybe it's negative, other things happen. I can sort of see a breakdown of how many records or what percentage, and that's actually something I can also configure in this dashboard. I can, hide or display the percentage. I can even, if I were, we put on our fictional hospital administrator hat, I can set a numeric cost to a particular activity. So let's say I wanted to know the running cost of how many tests I perform over time. Right-click on the activity. I can set any kind of number on it, and we'll get a quick arithmetic calculation. The nice thing about this is as more data is coming into the system effectively in near time, in real time, or in batch, this will update as it goes. So at any point, I as the administrator can come in here, look at my process map, and get a quick financial view if that's part of my interest. The other thing we have in here that I think is really beneficial is sometimes we get asked, well, how do I know where my bottleneck is, temporally, time-wise? We have the ability, because this is driven by timestamps, we can actually display the average amount of time, maximum or minimum amount of time between activities. So if your average amount of time to go from scheduling a test to it being performed is something absurd and out of line, you'd be able to see that here and start digging into your process a little more. Now, as we're looking at this process map, it actually makes a lot of sense, but we all know our processes are never ever that clean. There are always aberrations, abnormalities. How do we render that? Looking in the configuration of this widget, if I start sliding this bar to the right, you'll see the map start to get more and more complex. And what it's doing here is taking into account more of the outliers. What we're seeing here are more infrequent iterations of the map as it takes into account more of the abnormal data. If I go all the way to the right, I get this kind of spaghetti view. This takes into account every single bit of data we sent in as part of this data set. Now, whether it makes sense or not, whether there are loops and processes that aren't entirely logical, it's all represented here. Now, I as a hospital administrator would look at this and say, okay, now I know that there are some issues in my processes that I want to be looking at, but how can I make any sense of this? One of the other features we have in here is we can actually drill down and start seeing the frequency of these maps, and I can click one of them, and what I get is a highlight and an animation that will take me all the way through. And from here I can start looking for the abnormalities and start picking what things I want to explore. So here, for example, I've got an animation that goes through. The person went to the ICU, the person passed away, and then somehow they restarted in the process. So I'd take this and go, okay, something went wrong here. It's paperwork. The person's actually finding something we need to analyze. At the very beginning, I mentioned it's not only about understanding our processes, it's also about making our future decisions more intelligent. So how do we go about that? Because this is truly an end-to-end platform and we want to give you the capacity to do all of that, we have this integrated into our native AI capabilities. So let's say I want to take all of my process history and go to the next level and say, how can I inform my future decisions? Let's go back to this activity. The test is performed. I want to know what's going to happen next. If I right-click on it, I'll choose Create AI Model, and it will take me directly into our AI Studio, where it will pre-build for me a deep learning model that I can then make more and more complex and do immediate training on. The inputs are the exact data we saw before, all of the chronic and vital statistics. And the output is the target action. Given the process map, what does the system think will occur next? And I can build this deep learning model entirely through point and click. I can add different layers of configuration. I can add different initializers or what have you. This is all based on TensorFlow and Keras. And then I can, I've just sort of picked things at random, but I could click train and train the solution immediately within here. I'll jump out just for a moment just to show you a comparison of a model that's already been pre-trained, just so you can see what the output of it looks like. I'll go to one that's gone through a couple of iterations. So this model was trained for address change for intent detection. Did the person want to change their address in our system? And it's gone through a couple of versions. And if I were to train it, what I could do is go to our training dashboard and select up to 3 versions to compare side by side, and I'll get a visual representation of how these models did. What we're effectively trying to do here is, Stefan likes to say, democratize AI. We're trying to put more into the hands of the so-called citizen data scientists, people who have interest but maybe aren't, don't know everything about Python or Scala code or what have you, and make AI models and data science much more accessible. So I can start making changes and seeing just how these things work. Nice thing about this as well is if I forget what some of these terms are, like area under the curve, if I'm not so sure, I can take a link, it'll take us into our internal documentation, and I'll get explanations for everything I'm looking at. So rounding out the story, we've had our data come in, we've done our sort of visual, we don't need that. We've done our sort of visual analysis of it. We've created an AI model. Now we want to make our future decisions more intelligent. So I can feed that back into a new where are you, live data, there we go, live medical data, into a new automation which says, I've got a person who's now coming into a testing center. They're filling out a form, they're getting their vital statistics checks, and they're getting that data sent to a mailbox. And actually, I have that linked right here. So we have just a couple of people, and we have some vital statistics, we have some forms. Here we have an example of, so this is just a CDC form that's typewritten, scanned really nicely. Here's a little more reality-based, handwritten and scanned at a kind of a wonky angle there. So we send those into the system, and we'll process the data in the body of the email, we'll process the OCR, I'll show you how we interact with that in a moment. And effectively, we just send it into the AI model we created. Again, all through point and click. The models here, I can just sort of add it in. And we'll pass in all of the vital statistics we have, all the stuff we parsed out from the message. The only thing we don't have here is process. That's what we're trying to do. We're leveraging our history to intelligently make a decision about what should happen next. If for this new person, the result is, the model says the result is likely to be negative, we can send a custom message back saying, maybe go home and wait for further communication. If, however, we think that it's potentially positive, we can do any number of things. We can send out a message to the user saying, go to a hospital immediately. We can send out a message to the hospital saying, prepare for an incoming patient. We can contact the hospital's database and say, let's add this person to your patient roster. We have all this good data. And we can even contact Robin, which is our human in the loop, where someone at the hospital can interact and validate that the OCR done on the images is correct before it goes into the system of record. So looking at that here, so here's an example of the interface for Robin where we can set up any number of what we call skills. Skills are effectively just activities that you want the user to do. So we've got a number of things in this environment. For this case, I have one set up for validating the medical form. So here are the two emails that I processed a little bit earlier, and I've just chosen a scattering of fields, and whoa, this is rendered a little oddly, but okay, apologies for that. But in any event, it's get the OCR from this image snippet juxtaposed with what the model saw, and I can make modifications very easily and submit it on its way. Likewise, for the handwritten image, the other thing to see here, we're dealing with checkboxes, we're dealing with dates. With additional training, this is actually a great mechanism to feed back data into the process. I can, oh, sorry, wrong one. I can change that. I can make these modifications. I can feed that back, and I'll have new marked data to retrain my model. Something else to notice here, the advantage of doing intelligent OCR, which is OCR augmented by AI models. If you remember, the original image here was at a strange angle. This one, as part of pre-processing, it reoriented it to true. It can also take into account inverted pages, missing pages, blank pages, etc. And actually, just to, again, show additional layers of potential complexity. Pardon me, my thing went away. It's hiding at the bottom. Sorry. This is an additional one that I'm working on as well, where I've got, say, a power of attorney form, and I can sort of see the source PDF and some of the emails and what the OCR model is calling out. So we can get very, very complex with what we show, whether it be data, whether it be drop-down fields, checkboxes, or what have you. What we want to present to the user. And then the last thing, and I promise I will take a breath, the other part of Sonar is the pure data visualization side. So this is the process mining side. The other side is the metric analysis. And here I can actually get visual widgets, sort of Tableau style visual widgets of my data. And again, this will update in real time as additional data is coming into the system. So through point and click, I can create a very granular view. I can filter my data down to very, very fine detail. In this particular case, I only wanted processes that occurred during this particular month. For looking at average temperatures, I wanted to look at people who had diabetes and are currently smoking. And I can filter down by effectively any data element I've sent into the systems. We make it very, very easy and very, very quick to visually represent all of this data. And with that, I think I've sent the fire hose out enough, so I'll pause there and open for questions.
Thanks, Nico.
Right.
So maybe if I may just double click a little bit. So what you nicely get in one platform, for one price is really the whole end-to-end platform to automate any kind of business process. Obviously, this is a medical example, but we frequently do contact center automation. Emails comes in, we understand the intent, we can just route that, we can automatically answer it. So a common use case for us is automating quote responses. Just to give you an idea, we have a customer, they historically had 900 people doing this. they needed 3.5 days to answer these kind of emails because there's a lot of back and forth, and had only a 60% answering rate. So we started the project actually hitting exactly the human automation, or the human rate, 60%. And then given that we used Robin with human in the loop to consistently work on kind of these edge cases, we collected additional data, improved the AI models, and within 8 weeks, we now had an 87% answer rate for these code requests of hundreds of thousands of code requests. And you know, the beautiful thing here is not just that we saved that manual labor for 900 people, but these 900 people are now actually outreaching, proactively selling. So we actually talking of a span over 3 years of $156 million ROI for this customer. And again, this is a big customer. We'll also have an insurance startup that basically end-to-end really implements certain processes, customer sign-up processes, where they maybe upload a form, and based on the form evaluation, you know, and the data that can inform an AI model around risk and support the underwriting, you know, a more aggressive or less aggressive price can be offered to the customer. We do a lot of claims processing, but again, it can be the very big company, it can be a smaller company. The beauty is we're extremely strong around these unstructured data documents, if it's the intelligent OCRPs, if it's the text. Nico mentioned the legal forms where we can identify paragraphs that discuss certain sections, etc., etc. And it really allows us to very quickly then build out more complex end-to-end business processes where we see kind of the traditional guys doing rather simple task automation. We, as you can see, we're kind of more the heavy enterprise. Okay, let's run this full business process on the platform.
Great, great, great. And I can truly see why it's AI-led and it's not like a workflow-led automation tool, right? So Frank Spangenberg, and I hope I'm saying it right, Frank. He has a question on the demo. He's asking, what if the system has no APIs? For example, if it's terminal-based, or if there is no process data available, like a manually executed step out of this central system, how do you handle that?
Yeah, good question. So we actually do have integration even in the lower level stack of the technology. So what's very common, if it's a terminal-based application, it's a mainframe application, you will find maybe interesting that we actually even physically run on mainframe hardware. So we recently had a $80 billion insurance company, and they said, like, look, we would love to run you guys, but we want to run you along our application on the mainframe platform. So we literally support PowerPC. But to coming to the question, so we do have integration into other bus database, copybook, and so on, which actually allows us to integrate into these terminal applications on the lower level. So, and when you see a terminal application, it is usually a copybook, right? And the beautiful thing about mainframe and terminal applications, actually all the business logic is then in these COBOL copybook applications that we can straight up connect to. So are we automating the screen, the little window that happens to be on your Windows application? No, but we go right to where you really get the big throughput. And one thing to think about really, and this is why you're seeing so big challenges with traditional RPA. If you have a mainframe application, you know, maybe I'm European, and I think Nico has some Italian himself. So let me use the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? You have this like already very fragile legacy infrastructure, and now you're putting you know, an RPA tool on top that tries to pump 2,000 records per minute into the application. Of course, this will fail, right? Our ability to really then straight up hook on that next layer down, which is copybooks or the other bus databases right in there, allows us to be just more mindful how we're really going after this. And then one capability we didn't talk about that is extremely interesting for our, again, companies that have these kind of legacy systems. So very frequently we work with insurances that have, for example, underwriting rules still written in COBOL code. So what you actually can do with our product is you can load any kind of code that you have into our product, and we call this the containerized function. So this could be your COBOL code that you have running since 20 years with 350 volts to underwrite the home insurance that you have. This could be high frequency trading C++ code, and these are all real examples of our customers. This could be R, this could be Python, this could be Ruby code. And basically you just drop that into our application and it shows up as a function. Because if you happen to maybe just open up a flow, it's just one of these boxes. And now we do all the magic under the hood. Yeah? So if you have millions of records that you need to process, we actually do the life cycle management now. So that COBOL code that you maybe have, now we replicate that 5 times. We're making sure there's no data conflicts whatsoever. Again, depending on the infrastructure, we can elastically expand for the job and then contract again. So again, we're very enterprisey this way. Obviously, there are products that focus more on the business community where it's more like an if this then that, but we find that's a pretty crowded market. We more on that like, okay, this is real. We want to run our business on that. It's complex. So we integrate with all these kind of things in different, more enterprise ways than the traditional RPAs, which is just trying to type in data on the user interface. Sorry,
and if I just want to just add one thing about the accrual of data, because that's a common question I've gotten when I start showing Sonar. For things that are exclusively human steps, I mean, obviously that's going to be something where there'd have to be some form of, integration or paper trail or what have you. But there are people who look at our starting data set and say, well, what if I don't have my log files that clean? Or what if I haven't been accruing this level of detail you needed yet? Actually, thing to note there, to generate that sort of process map, you only need 3 data elements. You only need the who, the what, and the when, the activity, a unique identifier, and the timestamp. Everything else is supporting metadata that you can use for the AI, but we make it very easy to get that process map. But even if you don't have the data in this level of detail, we can leverage our integration capabilities to sort of piggyback on your existing systems and help you accrue that data over time. So it doesn't have to be just sort of this clean rendered data set available. We don't have to change anything in a process initially, but if we were to do this as sort of a POC or a learning engagement, we could sort of connect to those systems, track that data over time, and just sort of accrue it, and then visualize it, and then use that as the next step to do further analysis.
So you're on mute.
Oh, thank you, Stefan. Sorry. So Nico, maybe you can stop sharing the screen and we'll just get into the question and answer session here. So thank you, Nico, for the demo, and thank you, Stefan, for the introduction. That was great. I think, as you said, it's a hyper automation platform right from the get-go, and I think you've been building it like that even before Gartner came up with this term called hyper automation. So though one of the questions that most people have is about the platform itself, how it compares to the other platforms. So a generic question in terms of, why Automation Hero when there are multiple other offerings, and how do you differentiate yourself?
Mm-hmm. So what we frequently see as quote unquote our competition in deals is a duct tape solution of different tools, right? So they maybe spend $100,000 on a process mining tool, and they spend $300,000 on an RPA tool, and then they're like, oh, well, we need OCR now, so let's put another 100 grand down on, pick your favorite OCR tool. And then you still don't have any kind of AI. Yeah? So then you go and maybe buy yet another AI tool there, or again, even slower, you will start hiring a data science team and so on. And you saw, right? It's very visual in our case to build these kind of models. So the way we differentiate ourselves is really time to value. We believe that the only thing you can't buy for money is time. So therefore, the most valuable thing we can do is provide you a platform that gets you the fastest to really automate your business process. And on that level, again, we are a little bit more enterprisey than some other folks. We're not kind of your if this then that, and that is totally fair, and there's a market for that. I'm not want to be negative about that, but we really see ourselves, if you have, okay, we're in insurance, this thing needs to run. There is no way we'll put this in the cloud. We need this on-prem. And by the way, we have this, 500 rule set COBOL code we need to integrate. So that's kind of then our watering hole, our turf. That's where we working really very well. So it's very enterprisey. That doesn't necessarily mean big company. Again, we have a lot of startups as well and smaller companies. But it's just like, okay, I want to go all the way from email to answering the quote, or from email to set up the account, and so on. And we bring all the tools together. The people that need to be in the process, the AI, the process mining, the flow, the integration, the highly reliability. And so, yeah, we're kind of that very enterprisey end-to-end platform, I would say.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, you have most of the capabilities on your platform, and that is great. What I like most about the platform is that, and what I thought that it differentiates is that it's data first. So you are starting with data and AI, which I think is a true differentiator. We are mostly in the RPA tools. We are mostly in that workflows. You are mostly with data and flows, like what Nico was saying. So that's great. So from an AI capabilities perspective, so when you started off, I'm thinking you started by having AI around flow. So the question was around what all capabilities do you have? Like I know you've got NLP. I did see some of those. So what's your complete AI capability?
On the AI layer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the capabilities are really wide. So we do true deep learning, not your grandmother's machine learning with random forest or anything like this that some people these days call AI. We do true deep learning models. So that allows us to do a wide variety of things. So a very common one is intent detection or text classification. So the use case would be, here's an email or support message, and we need the simplest things to route it. And that might be routing it to a person, or that might be routing it to an automation, to another flow, and saying like, okay, this is a quote request, we want to answer the quote, or this is a tracking request, we want to look up where the package is, or this is a complaint and we need to route that to our support team. So that's kind of the first capability. Second capability around natural language processing is what's called dark data extraction, or for a more technical term named entity extraction, which means extracting structured data out of text. So very frequently, if we maybe stay with the tracking example, it's like, or the quote example, hey, I would like a quote to send a package from San Francisco to New York, it's 50 kilograms, how much is that? So these, of course, are in kind of raw text. Sometimes it's in tables. Many times someone is just literally writing an email. And with named entity extraction or dark data extraction, we can extract from, to, amount, and so on, and turn kind of what's unstructured into structured data. Then next common use case, of course, is our intelligent OCR, where we we didn't have a chance to go great in detail, but again, we're above industry average in the accuracy. Why? Well, we daisy chain a whole bunch of AI models together, right? So the first AI model is understanding which document is this. We literally have insurance documents where you have 50 pages, of which only 3 of us are really meaningful. The rest is like, I don't know, the cover page from the contractor and this and that. So we have visual classification that says like, oh, actually, these are the documents or the pages we're interested in. Next up, we have an AI model that is similar to Photoshop, is correcting, these days a lot of these scans, quote unquote, are smartphone pictures. So terrible, higher resolution, but terrible quality around orientation and such. So next AI model can correct that. And we have an AI model that really extracts visually in the form, okay, this is the field. And that's quite complicated because sometimes it's handwritten, it leads into the next field, maybe it's multi-line, they squeeze it in or something here. And we have a phenomenal deep learning algorithm that really is pixel by pixel scoring, is that still part of that? Then we have the OCR, again, handwritten text. Usually in the industry, you get around 50 to 60% accuracy. We very frequently achieve in the mid to high 90s. Why? Well, we're bringing in, again, boosting deep learning models that have context knowledge. So let me give you an example. We have an insurance, and actually, it's an interesting one. There's a lot of pet insurances these days. It's a very fast-growing arena in the insurance space. It's very expensive to go to the veterinarian if you have a little puppy. So they have health insurance for pets. So actually, we have a couple customers now in this arena. So, and we get the form, and it's handwritten, and good luck, a veterinarian handwriting, that's as terrible as you can get. But we have context information. We know this is Rudy, the 11 years old golden retriever. Now we could learn from historical knowledge, golden retrievers very frequently in their higher age get kidney diseases. So now we can combine this context information with OCR. So even if we can only physically detect 50% of the characters, what would be totally not enough to provide high quality data for your system, now we can combine this with context information. Oh, 10 years old golden retriever, all right, it's kidney disease. So we're achieving extremely high accuracies to that, and there's a lot of IP in there, like really making this work. But that's, incredible valuable, as you can imagine. I mean, we have an insurance in North America. We're processing millions of claims that had to be manually typed in before. And nobody likes that, by the way. Yeah? And these folks now that historically did this actually now can really look for insurance fraud, because people submitting the same document again and again, and before, because of high error rates and manual entry, they couldn't find these duplicated submissions. Of course, now with AI, it's a very easy classification problem. Then we can do image processing. So very common these days is, again, hey, why don't you, again, insurance, send us a picture of your home for your, we wanna insure that. Well, guess what? If there happen to be a face on that picture under California as well as European data protection laws, you're not allowed to have any kind of pictures where third parties are in there. So we can actually detect faces, we can detect street name, license plates, what have you, and then car accident picture, what have you, and then back that out. And it goes farther all the way to, detecting if maybe a shingle on the roof had an impact by the last storm or things like this. So it goes very far, Of course, again, the low-hanging fruits are customer interactions. One last statement that I think makes the reason why we're just growing so incredible fast is RPA did a great job of, first of all, legacy systems that, by the way, are shrinking. Number two, with structured data. But if you really look into this, the moment you interact outside the company with your customers, with your suppliers, and so on, you very quickly get into the unstructured data world. And it's one thing to automate, maybe your accounting system, where you had maybe 5 accountants. That's great to help them. But if you have 5 accountants, you most likely will have 200 or 300 sales reps that are your best paid people in the company, that you make them enter lead information, contact information, make them answer emails such as, hey, I just moved, here's my new address. And that can be automated. And then it's not just a question of reducing cost. It's really a significant impact, increasing the productivity of your customer engaging folks. And that's the key these days. Yeah, customers picking who responds the quickest to quote requests or has the best customer experience. So that's, I think, where that really drives our business, and that's the AI capabilities in our product.
Okay. And how about the conversational AI? Do you have that as well, like the virtual agents?
Yeah, we are not a big fan of chatbots. Yeah, so and it's for multiple reasons. And again, I'm the geek here, so let me dive into technical reasons first. Look, the problem we have with chatbots is that people typing maybe 5 words maximum, like where's my credit card? And even if you have very high accuracy, as you know, having, let's say you have a 90% accuracy in detecting the intent of these like 3-word requests. The problem is, even if you just have a 10% error rate in that chat conversation, that means at some point you fail, and again, within 10 chat things you will fail. What is a miserable customer experience? The social rule, if you're writing an email, is you're writing more context, and you're providing the context right away. You don't divide the context into 3 or 5 word sentences as you do in a chat. So we actually do a lot of conversational automation on an email or support forum or that kind of way, yeah, where people are just, you know, still saying like, dear Stefan, I have a broken, you know, and then there's more context. By the way, you know, also have the email, so you can look things up in Salesforce and so on. So we just see significant higher, you know, success with automating email engagements rather than chatbots. So we steering away from the chatbots. We leave that to other folks, but we do a lot of conversational automation around emails.
Okay, great, yeah. So staying with AI, one of the questions was about if these components were inherent to the platform, or is it integrated with Azure or Google Cloud? Or
So it's all ours. It's all one platform. So we offer our product to be installed on-prem. So, and again, we in very big financial organization and small startups or smaller companies, but very frequently, especially as you engage with customers, it's not an option to just send data off to your, you know, cloud provider. And by the way, we the accuracy we achieve in our system is like far above what you get with like Google Vision or Azure Vision or, you know, pick your favorite, whatever. So no, we don't use any of this. We don't send data out. But of course, if you want to run our product in these cloud environments, we actually support them. So our fully managed environments in AWS, that's just the most popular, but we do have customers that run us in Azure. You can run us in Google Cloud. And again, you can run us in actually IBM's mainframe cloud as well, as we're supporting mainframe hardware even.
Okay, great. So if someone needs to start out, I think that's a question many of our listeners or, you know, viewers would have. What would be the basic understanding to start off with Automation Hero?
Yeah, we see frequently folks that have a little bit of background in data analytics, that are kind of more the Excel jockeys, that ETL pipelines before, feeling very comfortable in the product. We do offer extensive training for free, of course. We have an online portal that has, you know, kind of different certification levels, right? It's like, hey, the 5 minutes getting started, or I want to be a citizen data scientist. That's a couple 3-hour kind of training that you can go through. But we're really holding the hand there. And, you know, if you know what a string, an integer, and a Boolean value is, and kind of how you need to move your data to automate something. Because let's be honest, if we zoom out, automation is data movement, yeah, with intelligence. And if you know, okay, I have my customer relationship management data here, and I have my order management system here, and by the way, when I move here, then I need to process the OCR, the PDF with OCR, then you're pretty quickly able to point and take things together. As you saw, it's very visual. You can not screw anything up. You add something, you see the preview, okay, you add the next thing, and so on.
Okay, so one question Hal had was, you've mentioned a training, but do you have a training path for RPA practitioners who are already working on Automation Anywhere or UiPath or Pega? Do you have a path? Okay.
Yeah, we do. So two things. We have a partner program where we, of course, have very meaningful partner kickbacks, of course, what's maybe always interesting for our partners. Yeah, so there's different models. There's a bronze, silver, and gold kind of partnership. We are with all the GSIs, of course, already have partnerships there, but we actually really like the boutique and smaller partners as well. So we do a lot of support for them. One thing is free education, absolutely. So again, there's an education portal that you can, at your own pace, kind of work their way through. And we'll also supply partners really with beyond that. There's really partner enablement. You know, we help you to pitch the product, understand the product, position it. And in the end, look, the result will be more business for you. It is really interesting. So how a lot of kind of UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Prism folks comes to us, because again, like this is the first wave of automation, and then you always run against the wall, which is, oh, how do we now bring intelligence into this, right? We did structured data and we added data into a mainframe, but now they want to bring customer support requests out of Salesforce over here and automatically do this. So this is, again, kind of the second wave is usually in, yeah, the big benefit there.
Okay, so if people want to start learning on their own, is that possible? Do you have like a community edition?
Yeah, we do. So sign up for our portal, for our learning portal, and then as part of the trainings process, you get access to the appropriate things beyond kind of the free version you get as you train, if you will. For kind of commercial customers, we have also a free version. So if you actually, it's more than free, we pay for you. So we actually have a cloud environment where you get $200 of credits. So again, not just do you get the software for free, but it's also the cloud credits, if you will. So that's a great way to get started. And yeah, you can already build something out for your customer and show it.
Okay, and considering your, the way you're approaching it with AI and data, where are you finding maximum traction for this? And which industries are you finding maximum traction right now?
So especially given the AI capabilities, where we're extremely strong is as soon as we're hitting unstructured data. That could be emails, texts, this could be written documents, forms, invoices, legal documents that have to be OCR'd. So that naturally brings us into usually contact center use cases, sales use cases, in insurances, of course, claims, so input management there, claim processing, etc., etc. But from an industry perspective, it's not just insurances. It's a top area for us, as you can imagine. Right. But we have logistic companies. We have actually some of the biggest European retailers as customers. We have, of course, banks. We have startups. Nico, help me out. So what else?
I'm doing one with a manufacturer right now.
Manufacturing, oil industry. There's really no limit to that. But again, I think the use cases for us are that will get interesting the moment you want to do something more serious beyond just a simple task automation. Right. So if you really, okay, we have an end-to-end process. This needs to run 24/7. This is customer critical, and we have unstructured data. This is kind of our sweet spot.
Okay, so now in an RPA world, it's all task automation, as you rightly say, and also what advantage with that is that it is quick. You can do things in 2 weeks, 4 weeks. How much time would you take generally for your automations?
Yeah, I referenced this customer with a $156 million ROI. It took 2 weeks to implement that.
Oh, okay.
Look, as always, it's a journey. It took 2 weeks to get the 60% done that I mentioned, and then it took another 80 weeks to get to 87%, right? So there's, of course, a continuous improvement, and you can continue, improve, and it makes business sense. But you will find that it's extremely simple to click things together here from an AI model as well as from a flow model. So, I mean, there's a learning curve, right? So if you subtract that, we frequently get kind of the first prototype of an automation done in less than a couple of weeks. So it's really fast. I would argue it's significantly easier than kind of the traditional RPA when you hit certain things around, the moment in traditional RPA you want to do something interesting, you have to use C# code. Good luck. You don't have to do this with us, right? It's all point and click. And if you want to do something super crazy, then it's JavaScript. So it's a much lower barrier to entry.
Okay, and so also with traditional RPA, one problem is what people call as scaling, and they define it as number of bots, which kind of I don't agree with, but that's how they scale. So how are you saying scaling with Automation Hero?
Look, this is our sweet spot. Yeah, so that's my background as one of the guys that started Hadoop. And look, I mean, in 2005, I built the iPhone backend, right? We talked about Steve Jobs earlier today. So that was kind of my first job when I came to California from Germany. So we can run at massive scale. We do not have a customer yet that hit the limit. We can run in up to 1,000 servers. And here's the differentiation. RPA has means bots, then are multiple machines. We run, if you want to stay with the bot world, we run one bot distributed. So this is a really big and critical differentiation. So if you think about, let's say you have more documents or process that you need to process than one machine can use. The traditional way is that you basically partition the work. So you say like, okay, well, I have two machines that do the work. The problem, if one machine fails, you're losing the data. You don't know what the machine maybe was just in the middle of processing. And now you have this one machine here kind of like being totally overwhelmed. Now with our technology and environment, again, we're in an elastic expanding and contracting cluster if you choose to. And what technically happens if one machine fails is that another machine can take over the work or can, again, be restarted somewhere else on another physical machine. We really, first of all, can elastically expand, but also have these fault tolerance in. And technically, we're using, for the nerds on the call, we're using an algorithm called conflict-free replicatable data type. So you might not heard about that before, but you might heard about a technology called Git. So it's very similar to Git, where two developers can program on the code at the same time, and you can still kind of bring things together without conflict. That's what we're using actually under the hood in the platform, in our platform. So for achieving really military-grade reliability, you can literally have 5 machines run on-prem, 5 machines in the cloud. You cut the wire. These two things will continue to run. You bring them back together. They sync up and identify where there might be conflict and such, so that you at no point have data loss. So we extremely enterprisey, up to 1,000 servers. Nobody ever got anywhere close to that. So not just scalability, but also reliability. That's really important as you scale.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the pricing options. I think you said you have pay-as-you-go pricing, right?
Yeah, so also very differentiated. We don't charge on a per bot base or per use case base. We believe that automation needs to be accessible also to smaller companies. So we have a very aggressive pricing, which is $6 per server per hour. So if you want to just play around for a couple hours, building something, go in our cloud environment, slide your credit card, 2 hours, $12, yeah. Just keep in mind you need to shut it down. Don't keep it running for the whole month, because we will charge you for the whole month. So we're not tracking when you logged in, but it's literally how long the machines are. But when you pause the machine, you can basically at any point like freeze the environment. There's no data loss. So you work 2 hours, then you call quit. You go to your family, play with your kids. Next day you start them up and you continue where you were left off. And then you can, of course, choose when you move things from a development environment into test environment, into production environment, what kind of your SLAs there and how you want to run them. But it's a very aggressive pricing that we think is fair. You should pay for something as you use it, and not, all right, before you can even do anything, put $2,000 on the table just so you have the development environment, right? And then put $100,000 on the table if you want to do anything more interesting and you need orchestration. All this stuff is built in, yeah? So there's no different pricing. Orchestration is built in, fault tolerance is built in, all the connectors are built in, the AI studio is built in, yada, yada, yada. So it's all one price, $6 per machine per hour.
Okay, great. And it's all, this is for your cloud environment.
For the cloud, yeah. If you go on-prem, then we assume you run 24/7. These are the financial service organizations, right? So here you, of course, have kind of a different requirement. So yeah, we go on-prem, and then we assume 24/7. So if you multiply things out, I don't know, you get to $5,000 a month for a meaningful environment or something. Yeah, but these again are more beefy environments. Yeah.
Okay, and so you have an enterprise pricing model for that, it looks like. All
Yeah.
right. So before we go, one last question, because we are going through this pandemic and we're getting into a new normal and we're all concerned about it. We also, some of them are excited. How do you see it with the new normal?
So we're of course devastated about the tragedy of this event and the impact for many families. So I want to say that first. We do see, let me quote the brilliant CEO of Microsoft. We saw 2 years of digital transformation happening in 2 months.
Yeah.
So we saw the same thing. So especially as a lot of customer interactions have to be automated very quickly, you can't afford to have 200 people sitting 2 feet away in a call center, right? And a lot of companies struggling with the cybersecurity risk, having people just straight working from home. So we saw actually an uptake in interest. And on the one hand side, we see a lot of interest, and we're growing over 100% quarter over quarter. But of course, companies are more careful on the other hand side. They're very budget concerned. That of course is very nicely resonating with our pay-as-you-go model. Yeah, so we actually saw a kind of a very positive impact in this devastating situation to our business.
Okay, well, hope you all do well and hope we all stay safe. So with that, I think it's a good note to end on. Thanks for doing this, Stefan. Absolutely enjoyed doing it. Nico, thank you for the great demo. Thanks all for joining. We're at the top of the hour. Thanks for the questions on the chat. I'll be sending out a recording as well as putting it on YouTube so that you can all view it. Any resources, Nico and Stefan, you want to share, please do share and I'll add it. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.